I'll call our regular scheduled meeting to order. Someone would call the roll.
Yes. Commissioner Blevins?
Here.
Commissioner Norwood?
Here.
Commissioner Siragusa?
Here.
Commissioner Roberts? Here. Commissioner Stallings?
Here.
Commissioner Orr?
Here.
And Mayor Mason.
Here. We'll do our invocation. We've asked Matt Span from the Cherokee Strip Baptist Association to do that, followed by our flag salute, and I've asked Commissioner Stallings to do that. So if everyone will stand, please.
At my home church, we've been doing a series on wisdom from the book of Proverbs in the Bible. And even if you're not a Christian, the sayings in there are very practical for everyday life, and especially for this group. It talks about gentleness as you approach another person that you may disagree with. Gentle answer turns away wrath. Also patience, the idea of listening to someone before you make a judgment. And then, of course, discernment, which is all throughout that book. And so that's going to be my prayer for you guys. And I want to let you know how much we appreciate the time and energy you all put in. I know there's a whole lot more than during this meeting, but thank you for what you do on behalf of our city. Let's pray. Our most gracious Heavenly Father, we come before you humbly bowing, acknowledging our need for you, our need for wisdom in all matters of life. We're dependent on you, and we do pray that for our city council members as they gather and make decisions, that you would give each one of them the ability to respond with gentleness when there may be someone they disagree with, and with patience, being able to listen, to hear to the end of a matter before making a decision without answering rashly, and then to give them each discernment to be able to really know the heart of the matters as they are looking at different decisions about issues that concern our city, that they would be able to know right from wrong and judge wisely with discernment. We ask all these things in the precious name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Please join me with a pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item number 3.1, consider approval of minutes of the regular commission meeting of July the 6th, 2023, and the special commission meetings of May 9th and May 11th of 2023.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. Okay, motion passes 7-0. Item number 4, awards, presentations, proclamations, and organizations. And before we start on this, we had not formally recognized our new base commander. He's sitting right over here, Colonel Throckmorton. I've had an opportunity to meet you, meet your family, be in a couple meetings already, and thank you for being here tonight. Thank you for coming to Enid. We're excited about that. Mike Cooper made the comment that we just keep getting great commanders. So that being said, we are here to help that mission out there, anything that we can do, and to welcome you and your family to our city. So. Item 4.1, present the dog available for adoption at the city's Animal Welfare Department.
Wolf.
So tonight I have Chevy. Chevy is an 8-year-old pit bull mix. He's already been neutered. He was an owner surrender, no fault of his own. His owner just had a living situation come up and he can no longer keep him. He's good with cats, kids, and has lived with other dogs. And so he is ready looking for his new home that hopefully he can live out his retirement years. He's very sweet, very loving, and he's just a really good dog. He came in fantastic. everybody. He likes car rides. He just loves riding in the front seat and laying down. And will make anybody a good companion. And he is located in Pen 4.
Okay, thank you.
I'll send him home with you.
Item number 4.2, recognition of Autry students. So all those folks that are from Autry, if you want to come on up. Parents, if you want to come also. Let's go, we're going to go right up here around this microphone, okay? So, Joel and I were talking a couple months ago, and I've noticed that during our meetings that Joel and I have, that go over all the different things that are coming up, it's so easy for us to look at some of the negative things and the big challenges that we have and some of the hurdles that we're going to get over. And I just started thinking that in Enid, we're a fortunate place. And I told you that I went down to a conference not too long ago, the mayor's conference, and all I heard was a lot of stuff, of hurdles that they're having to go over. And I started thinking, we're fortunate. Man, we are so fortunate in Enid in several ways. Everywhere I look, we're fortunate. One of those ways is through Autry Tech. And I want to back up because I want to make sure I explain why. As we get ready to bring in more industry and we work towards that, you know, we've done a big water project and we're trying to buy land. We're doing all these things. The one that keeps me awake at night is workforce. Train people that can show up with these jobs. And then I pick up the newspaper here a week or so back, and I see where two students, and I'll read these names, Gabriel Hoover and Michael Silver, that they had won first and second, I believe, at a national conference. I thought, well, that's pretty good. Then I started talking to Ricky Wilkinson, which you're over the program, I think, out there, all right? In order to even go to a national contest, you have to win first at a state contest. So these weren't the only two people. Autry Tech sent 35 people from Oklahoma to the national contest, which meant that 35 of those people, students, actually won first at a state level. So that being said, when we sit around as elected officials and go, where are we going to get people that are smart and can work and do design work and welding and all these different things, it's through our educational program, specifically Autry Tech. So you guys are knocking it out of the absolute park. And called you, Rick, and I said, man, bring them up here. We're going to start celebrating some of these things. There are good, positive things happening every single day in Enid, and we want to recognize that. So next time you guys do this, I want you to come back again and again and again. All right? So that we recognize those folks that are just doing so well. Rick, I'm going to start with you. I'll let you introduce everybody, and then this is our teacher, by the way, that's actually going to come and speak. So,
Ricky Wilkinson, I'm the Director of Full-Time Programs at Autry Technology Center. Yeah, we recently went to Atlanta where we took 35 students, 10 advisors. Of the 35 students, 23 placed in the top 10 in the nation. And as a whole, Oklahoma had more gold medalists than any other state in the nation. Our students are phenomenal because our instructors are phenomenal. We have a great pool to pull from. We have magnificent facilities, but more importantly, we have the support of the community, of you guys. I know we've worked with the City of Punch on different projects, and we continue to do that in the future. And we're just excited to be a part of this. I'm glad you guys are celebrating us. And again, our students are the best in the nation. So this is Michael Silver. He competed in a CNC event where he won second place in the nation. Part of that was he received a prize package of several thousands of dollars that'll go to a savings account for him that he can use for his pleasure, educational career, or whatever. But His parents are with him this evening. He is also completing his Eagles merit badge where he's doing a flagpole at Benny's Barn. So these are community members as well, so we appreciate that. Gabriel Hoover competed in graphic arts competition, sublimation, again, best in the nation. And he also won a very valuable sublimation machine at Atlanta. And so these are competing against other students throughout the nation, Puerto Rico, Virgin Islands, so on and so forth. And one of our leaders of the Skills USA, and that's the name of the student organization, is Mrs. Cooksey, who is our graphic arts instructor. We'll give her a minute to kind of brag about her students.
Well, Mayor and all of our board members, I want to thank you for recognizing these amazing young men. They worked hard. I know that Gabriel practiced. He came in on summer break and practiced before we actually went to Atlanta. And they went to represent Oklahoma. And I'm so proud of them, and it just makes me feel so good that you are proud of them as well. So thank you for letting us come. But how many of you have ever heard of Skills USA? Awesome. You know, about 20 years ago, I asked a room of people like this if they had heard of it, and do you know, no one had. But Skills USA is an organization for students enrolled in trade, industrial programs. Similar, how many of you have heard of FFA? Probably everybody, right? We're an agrarian part of Oklahoma, and that's a big deal. Well, Skills USA is an organization for our students, and they competed in skill, leadership. In fact, Gabriel had an interview portion of his contest, so it wasn't just all skills and knowledge. And it was really kind of cool because the owner of probably the most prestigious sublimation manufacturing company in the United States did that part. So we have a lot of business and industry support behind us. And thank you, Enid, for being behind us as well.
Thank you. Thank you for being a good teacher.
Oh.
We just need more and more of you out there. So I want to give you, each one of you, one of these coins. These are a mayoral coin that I had done. They have the city logo on one side, has our cityscape on the other, and then what I call the city on the move.
Oh,
We are not slowing down for anything.
Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome. We are very proud of you guys. Thank you. Good. I never help you, okay? All right, here we go. You want to take a picture with you in it also? I bet we can get somebody to take a picture. It's okay, or you want us in the center? Right here. Okay, let's give them a round of applause. Okay, item 4.3, recognize the Enid, our City of Enid Employee of the Month for July. Did I mess it up?
Well, there's a power button here, is it right here?
Oh.
I'm going to say it's intelligence test. Please. Send me up for success, please. Well, hey, I'll go ahead and get started. I'm glad it's not just me on that mic. That really is complicated. Hey, but what isn't complicated is our Employee of the Month. We've got fantastic people that work at the City of Enid Cass, why don't you come on up, and Kathy Miller, come on up. Cass Raines has been chosen as the Employee of the Month for July. Thank you. And that involves somebody nominating him and him being selected. So there's about 500 employees. So it takes someone that gets noticed doing a fantastic job. I will say I've known Cass for a few years. I think you've worked for us for a few years now. You came to us from the newspaper, and I'm sure you did other things in the past, but you do wonderful things as the public information officer for the police department. So, Scott, you want to talk about that, and then we'll
Yes,
give him
this is Cass Raines. I wish I would have been the one who actually nominated him for this, but like many of our administrators, we probably take him for granted. Most of us probably don't even know what his job description is because he does so much. He's basically a public information officer. Someone makes reports, videos, they come and ask for that information. It's his job to deal with the media. That's what his job description is. He does much more than that. Every single division in the police department, from the administration all the way down to the cleaning people, he assists everyone as much as he can. He is also that joke every day, that smile every day, that good attitude when he comes to work every day, even when you know he can't always be that happy. He normally is. So I've called him out a couple times, but he won't go back on it. But he's that guy that when you see things put on our Facebook page, he's helping the officers solve crimes. We never had that before. We actually stole him from Enid News and Eagle. He was the crime scene reporter for Enid News and Eagle. He kept showing up, and our retired Chief O'Rourke says, we need him to work for us. So we know what information that the media needs. You see all the big police departments, Oklahoma City, OSBI, Tulsa, they've all started recruiting journalists from their local news stations as their POIs, and that's basically what we did. And he does so much for us that he also takes care of if we have events out in the public and we have need coloring books or crayons for kids at schools. All we got to do is go say, hey, Cass, this is what I've got coming up. He finds those things. When we go out to the cemeteries, put flags and stuff on our officers who has died. Cass is right in the middle of all that, organizing it, going out to Hobby Lobby, getting the flags, presenting those to us. When we have officers retire, we had one just retire. I go in, I says, we're going to need a plaque. He says, I'm already on it. A few days later, he's at Hobby Lobby bringing in our plaques. He does all of that. He helps every division out from top to bottom. A lot of us take him for granted because we don't actually know what his job description is, but because he does so much. And as the assistant chief here, and as the chief, Skaggs, when we heard that he was nominated, we looked at each other and thought to ourselves, that should have been us. We should have been the one nominating. But I feel we both take him too much for granted. And I want to thank Lieutenant Roberto Norton, he's our communications lieutenant, for nominating him and giving me the opportunity to come up here and thank him for the job he does and the attitude he brings to work every day, because at our job, it's not always easy. And he brings a smile to about everybody's face in our department. And if he knows you're having a bad day, he's going to show up in your door and try to make you have a better day. That's just how Cass is. Cass, thank you very much.
Cass, I want to present you with this plaque and then a couple of coins. One is a city manager coin for outstanding performance, and one of them is a friend of the city, because obviously you are a friend of the city too. So
thank you.
It's your turn.
Oh, well, I don't really know what to say. Captain kind of built it up pretty big, but, we work in a building with so many great people. It's really nice to be selected from among so many great folks. And I just try and show up and do what I can to help anybody I can and support the police department's mission and just get things done that I'm able to do and as a civilian, and not take away from our officers or administrators have more important things to do probably, so.
Well, I would say you're getting that done.
Good.
So thank you very much.
Well, thank you, sir. I appreciate it.
Hey, and on that, you talked about being, I think you talked about being a model of consistency and showing up every day. I want to recognize somebody who's shown up just about every day for about 46 or 47 years. Bobby, why don't you come up here? Bobby Smith and David and Tim, why don't you come up as well? It's kind of bittersweet. You are retiring. I'm very happy for you because you put in some work.
A little bit.
I want to say I was probably in grade school when you started the city of Enid, and you hung in there through ups and downs and good things and bad things, and you just kept on going. Since I've been here, I've known you in solid waste and landfill, and I'm sure you've been some other places. But I'm going to let the guys that directly work with you now, and then we're going to hear from you because I bet you got some stories. We probably don't want to hear all of them tonight because they might be good stories, but. You've done a fantastic job. So, guys, why don't you talk about Bobby Smith?
Well, I was just thinking about him leaving earlier today, and it kind of got me sad because a lot of times I know that you work long days, but at the end of the day, I'll be in my office, and you'll always come in, and he'll ask me, how am I doing? And he's just that sort of guy. He's asking about other people. He's trying to do stuff for other people to make the community better, to make his team better. And it's weird because it kind of made me sad because you're going to be gone. And that's a presence that is definitely going to be missed with our team. And I am going to miss you. Believe it or not, my 3 years, there's been days at the end of the day that he comes in and he's asking me, trying to bring me up. So I just want to know that your character and how you handle yourself definitely spills out to the other people on the team. And I'm just really glad for you to take that next step.
So when I took over solid waste, I had a handful of guys that were basically 40 plus years employees. He's the last one left. And I just want to say thank you just because of the experience you brought to the table, your willingness to always step in and help and offer your experience and knowledge, and just your overall team attitude. It was really good. Anytime we asked you to step in on anything, you didn't hesitate. So you're definitely going to be missed, and I hope you keep coming around. Just to put into perspective, he was hired when I was born, the same year.
And again, I just want to say a model of consistency. Come on up. We're going to miss you. And thank you for all you've done for the city of Enid for 46 or 47 years.
Amen.
Yeah, it's been a little bit, I mean, these guys they got the hard job. I got the easy job. And it's been fun. I'm gonna go fishing.
Y'all get him a couple of fishing poles for his retirement party?
Party's still coming up. Yeah, that's
Next week.
Next week?
next Friday.
I'm gonna let you guys get back after it.
Okay, I'll move on to item number 5.1, hearing an appeal regarding the code official's determination at 1107 East Cherokee Avenue is dilapidated and is subject to demolition pursuant to Enid Municipal Code 9-11-2 and make a determination. Yes, go ahead, Scott.
Mayor, Commissioner, we have a slideshow here. I'll go through that. That should give a quick timeline. If there's some gaps in the fill, we'll talk throughout it. This just kind of shows where the house was in 2011. We had a minimum housing case. It looks like it went from just needing painting to there. From 2011 to about 2018, we had no issues. In 2018, there was a fire, and you can tell the interior on this one. These were taken on August 20th of 2019, almost a year after the fire. And then you can tell here the building was declared unsafe for occupancy in 2019. Dilapidation was hearing. The decision was to demolish, but we tried to work with the people that had the house to kind of continue it, bring it out of dilapidation here, and then that one kind of went. I'll go back to that one real quick. So we had a roof permit that was obtained, but there was no roof done, and something happened. I think COVID happened. We just kind of didn't pursue that case any further. So in March of 21st of this year, we opened a new case. The house had not become any better. The dilapidation was held on May 4th, and that was that we were going to work with him a little bit more, give him a little bit more time to board the house, mow, obtain the roof permit, and start the work. The roof permit was obtained. The roof has not been done. This is in June of 15th. You can tell the back. This was before one of the hearings. This is kind of, again, just you can start seeing where the fire still has everything on the side here. This is the back porch. You can see the electrical box in there. There's no fuses. There's no power going to this. There is a extension cord running to the neighbor's house. We have notified OG&E about that, but they don't seem to have any interest in that one. Here's that cord that runs in there into this house here. You can see there is no gas. Have been informed there is no water, so there are no legal utilities for this one. On the 23rd, a scheduled dilapidation was held. No representative of the property was there. We did decide to demolish at that point. We gave them a little over 30 days to try to either bring it out of dilapidation or demolish it himself, or we would be pursuant thereof. The appeal was to ask to not demolish this. A little backstory, or a little, just in this year, Enid Police has been out to this. There's been 2 follow-ups, 2 building checks. The doors are open, unsecured, and then a welfare check, fire, and then harassment threats. We did receive one complainant on this one that says they do not feel safe around this house. There are people in and out of this house. And for other various reasons, they believe this house needs to be gone. These were taken this morning. As you can tell, nothing's really changed. I don't see anything done on this one. This was done at 9:30 this morning. When the property inspector did go out, there were voices from the inside. What concerns me about that, there's no work permits for interior work, nor has the roof been done, so we need to get that roof done before we start any interior work anyways. So either I assume it's not workers, which leads me to believe it's vagrants or people that should not be in the house anyways. There is no legal utilities running to this property, therefore it is not fit for human habitation. The boarding and securing that was on the building has failed and been removed. In one of these pictures, the one on the left does show the door is ajar. There is many windows that are open. And here you can see that On the top of the roof, you can see that plyboard is still open. I don't see any shingles or comp on that one. And of course, some of the windows are boarded up and most of them have been removed. My recommendation, or staff's recommendation, is to deny the appeal or to approve it with a strict timeline on corrections. And that is the end of that presentation. Do we have any questions on this?
Yeah. Before I do, do any of the commissioners have a comment to Scott, a question? Okay,
I do have one question.
Okay.
On the appeal, how long are we giving the the owner of this property to put a new roof on it?
Since from the documents I see back, I can kind of go back here, I can get a specific date for you. Too far. It looks like towards the end, so we started that in 2019, and I can see some roof damage there beginning, and then it looks like towards the end of that, so I think we quit that one, that case kind of fell to the wayside in October 28th. So if I say 3 years, that would probably be a fair estimate.
And if an appeal was granted, what would be your timeline to have that roof restored?
I mean, that roof, the permit's already pulled. We've had the permit pulled since May. We're talking a month there. I mean, a roof shouldn't take more than a week if you've got the comp and the decking.
Do you all know if the structure of that house is sound?
I do not. I have not seen the interior of it. I can, on some of these pictures, and when I was out there looking at it, as you can see here above the boarded window, the roof is looking like it's starting to sag there, which makes me concerned that there are structural issues. We don't have an engineer report, but I haven't seen the interior of this either in recent times, so I can't say one way or the other.
Man, I hate to see that house tore down. It's a good house.
Any other
Question for
comments?
Captain. Does the police department believe this property is a danger to the surrounding communities?
I know we have been out there in reference to open doors, report of homeless going in and out. I have not seen a report where we've actually found someone inside the house. In the shape that it's in, if it's unsecured, we would consider it definitely a hazard.
The owner of the house died also, not recently, like 10 years ago, and that's probably part of the reason it remains unoccupied and it is, I am concerned that her estate has not been probated. This is getting worse from the, fires inside a house do not improve with time. And at this point, I am just concerned that giving more time will just make it get worse because whoever is going to fix it up doesn't actually own the property. That's probably the problem. That's part of the problem.
That's where I was getting to. I was going to ask, is there a clear deed or title to that house? Because I'm going to tell you, that house is fixable. If the foundation is solid, that's an easy fix. That house can be fixed. That can be a beautiful home.
Agreed.
It can be. I'd hate to see that in the landfill. It costs more to put that in the landfill than to fix that house. That house can be fixed up really nice for a family.
Agreed.
And we need homes.
It could, but
It could. If there's a clear title and deed to that house.
there is not a clear title.
That, man, I'd hate to see that in the landfill.
And
So who actually owns this?
So before we go any farther on this, I think, if I understand this right, Mr. Doherty, was it your mother's house or grandmother's?
And then
If you'll come up to the mic, we'll let you.
this one or this one?
Just that one right there is just fine.
Yeah, my brother was in possession of the house and supposed to be fixing it up for the longest time. I had been staying in Arkansas doing roofing and fencing work. When I had spoke with them and pulled the roofing permit, I got sick with a gallbladder attack and was put in the hospital for 3 weeks. That's why the roof wasn't finished and things like that. By the time I was supposed to have another meeting with Ms. Tingler back there, I was in Bass Hospital ER. I mean, they told me my gallbladder was enlarged by 1 inch. I didn't need to do any work because of stress. I had just recently moved back to Enid. I've had possession of the house for about 4 months. I've got sheetrock, shingles, and all that stuff, but I didn't know if I could continue to do work on the house before this appeal and stuff, or that roof would have been finished. There's roofing stuff on the porch. There's synthetic paper, there's shingles. I've got electrical wire inside of the house. Now, I do know that those homeless people are all going in. I've ran them off personally 10 to 15 times. I've boarded up that house. They keep coming in. I've contacted the police station, though, to help me. If you find anybody in there, just go ahead and take them to jail for trespassing. Like I said, I've only had possessions of the house since I've come back. No, I don't have the clear deed of it because I'm still working on all that, because I've been in Arkansas, like I said, working for years. And I just recently got back. I wasn't planning on getting sick. Yes, I do plan on fixing up the house. I have all the materials. It's just I can't do nothing if I'm laying in a hospital bed. I do roofing all around the state. I mean, I'm licensed. I got the employees to do it, but I can't physically, my brothers don't help me, and I got 4 different rent houses that my mom left that I'm trying to fix up at a time. And
So is all the material on site to replace that roof?
Not the electrical.
Or is it for a patch?
No, it's for right now, it's just for the 2 patches that are there. I'm sorry, I don't have enough money to replace the whole roof right now since I'm doing it by myself. But the frames in the house and the structure of the damage from the fire, that's not what's damaged. Just that kitchen part and all that stuff you guys seen, that stuff has been cleaned out of the inside of the house.
And this is a tough one because if you can get a legal clearance on this house, I can get you some help.
Legal clearance, what do you mean?
As far as the deed. If you can get the deed taken care of.
Like put in my name?
Yes.
I would have to look into that and see what that takes.
Because if not, it's a waste of time. Because there has to be an owner.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but I was just, like I said, I've been living away for years with all the probated stuff like that, and my brother was supposed to have all that intact. He didn't have all that, and I apologize for that. I've just been working, and since I've been back.
And while I appreciate that and fully understand it, I think my concern is the thought of vagrants in there, and there are people that live on both sides that want a safe place also.
Yes, and like I said, the woman
we do
that
have some responsibility.
Yes, and I've went over there, and the lady that I think lives to the west, I haven't spoken to them, I just spoke to them earlier, but the woman that lives behind that does do a lot of the calling of Enid, I've given her my phone number and said, if you see people in that house, call me to try to help them not have to deal with that headache. I can go over there and run them out. I've boarded the house up several times. They broke the windows out and went in. It's not like I'm not trying, I'm one person trying to do this, and it's, kind of hard. But the front part of the house has been painted. The parts that you were just looking at, all but the kitchen, has gotten new stuff put in there. There's been new flooring put down in there, where from where the things got burnt. The structural and the frames of the house is still fine. I went in there and checked myself. I know what I'm doing for that. That's what I've been doing for work. So, it's just those patch jobs, yes, and that soffit that's in the back, it had been, accumulating water because there was a hole back there. But now, we put the 7/16 sheetrock in there. But yes, that does have to be replaced, and I know that. But like I said, I've had to slow down on it because I've been in the hospital for 2 weeks. And that was a lot of the reason why the roof was not able to get done, because I got to get up there and do it myself.
But you're telling me that finances is that's a problem, being able to do this. Even if we fixed the 2 patches, we'd have windows that were totally gone, that you couldn't possibly put electricity in it.
No,
right?
And I didn't even know that there was electricity being ran over there. There's not supposed to be any kind of power work being done. I stopped doing the work until I was able to have this meeting because I didn't know if I was allowed to continue to do the work up there. That's why I didn't have any work done.
Any other comments on this?
I have a
I
question.
personally
Just-
think we need to give him a break.
Yeah.
We need to give him some time, and I don't know what the time frame is, but he's convinced me that he wants to fix it, he's gonna try, so I think we need to give him a time frame and let him try.
How much time, Commissioner, would you suggest?
I don't know, I don't fix up old houses, I don't know.
To make it operable, to make it operable and safe and.
Well, so we could take it out of code.
We're talking power, water, gas, everything, roof done, all of it up to code and everything up to go.
If we were to do, who owns it?
My mother did own it, and basically, me and my brothers, we've never been to anything about probate about that. You know, I personally didn't know anything about that. I'm not going to lie to you. I was living in Arkansas when all this happened, so, you know, I was doing work up there. I told them, you know, you guys do what you got to do. Take care of whatever you got to take care of. He recently had got arrested, and I finished up doing jobs there, and that's when I had to make the decision, well, maybe I need to come back here and start fixing these houses up, because my brother was just letting them all just go to
So who's all on the title? You and your brother? Or two of your brothers?
It'd be me and the three of my brothers.
Three of your brothers?
Yes, sir. None of them helped me do anything.
None of them are putting money into it?
None of them. The last thing I knew they did, they put a bin over there to start cleaning out. And then a year later, I ended up having to pay $1,600 because they never had the bin removed. So I had to pay that out and do that. So everything that's being done is paid out of my pocket, out of my own expense from working.
Man, I don't know the laws, but it has to be something clear. I don't know if it's something that can be donated to an organization and they take possession of it or what. Because, I mean, that's too good to go into the landfill.
I agree.
That's an easy fix.
His mom has been dead for quite a while. If they could find a will, it could be probated, and
There was no will when she died. She
Okay.
just suddenly passed away. One day
Okay.
she was doing good, and then the next morning it was
okay,
over.
and we don't think that she has a will. I can't imagine she has a trust, because an attorney would have, she would die intestate, and most likely it would go to her children. And you don't have to have a will. That could be done in the court system so that he and his brothers could get the house. My suggestion would be that that you could give, if you're inclined to give more time, that you give like 2 months, and he doesn't have to get everything done, but he's got to fix the roof and get the windows and make sure that the homeless people aren't in there. And then he goes back to Scott and talks about the next steps, about getting the utilities and bringing it up to code. And as long as he's meeting these steps, then he's fine. If he doesn't, you bring it back to them and seeking demolition then. That would be my suggestion. Meanwhile, he can, if he comes tomorrow, I will give him some attorneys' names for an intestate situation, and he can go over and talk to the new probate judge. But I would look through your mom's belongings just to make sure she didn't do a will.
No, I trust me. She in August 4th. She had been gone for 10 years. I looked for wills
Okay,
and things
very
like
good,
that.
very good.
Okay. Alex?
Yes, and I spoke to you.
Yes, sir.
We had a meeting, and our code officer, Tiffany Tingler, as well. One of the important first steps here is to secure the roof. We talked about that, and you understand that. Also, to do a proper board up, which we call a HUD board up, which you're boarding up from the inside out to make sure that people don't come in and pry open those windows or doors. If that's done, That would then give you some more time to
Yeah.
continue to raise the
I
funds
had
to
put
do
those
work.
boards up on the inside, but they kicked the door in.
Right, but with the HUD, we talked about it, it gets bolted from the inside out.
From the inside,
So
yeah.
literally, no one can pry it or kick it.
Gotcha. Well, I can go do
That's a
that
suggestion.
today. I mean, that's something I can go do as soon as I leave here.
Is
would
that
take-
some help that he could get from your office to actually how the HUD board up is supposed to be done? Or is there a website out there? I mean, I
I'm sure
wouldn't know
we
where to
could,
go
we
find
could, we could find the resources. I'm sure he's aware of what the proper.
I know how to do the HUD. I know what he's talking about. Everything has to be screwed in
Bolted.
from the inside, bolted, and the doors kicked in like that. I had the windows like that, but like I said, they kicked in the door, and that's why the door's been ajar. But I've talked to the police, and I've tried to get, hey man, if you guys see somebody there, just go ahead and take them to jail. Because I've been over there mowing the grass, and I've had to run the homeless people out of there myself. So I do know how big of an issue that is. That's not something I'm taking for lightly. And if there's people that live around there that don't feel safe and it's a house that I'm running, I take full responsibility for that. So I mean, I'm granted trying to help as much. I go over there almost every other night and have to run people off. You know, and the doctor just now released me about a week ago to get back to work, because he says working in the heat and stress is what caused my gallbladder to be enlarged for over an inch. So it's not, I'm sorry that it's been taking so long. Like, first years, I didn't have anything to do with the house. I just recently, in the last 5 months, have started doing something with the house. And the house has been painted. The burned stuff on the inside that you were seeing in the slide stuff has been taken care of and pulled out of there. I've got sheetrock and I've got electrical wire ready to go. I just didn't know if I could still do work until I had this appeal. And plus, before I got sick.
He said, you said he had already pulled the permits for the.
The roof? Yes,
for the
sir, I
roof?
have.
Correct. The roof has been pulled.
Roof
And
has
there's
been-
shingles and synthetic paper already sitting over there at the house. Like, I mean, once
Wait, I've
again.
known you since about 1996.
Yes,
I
sir.
worked at the police department. Know your whole family. Look me in the eye and tell me you're gonna get this done in
I'm gonna
about
get this
30
done,
days.
sir. In 30 days, I'll have that roof done and I'll have that HUD boarded up.
Fantastic. I move to give 2 months to have it taken care of.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Okay. Was that a second? Okay, I have a motion and a second.
You said 30 days to get everything done. My question is.
30 days. 30 days. I said 2 months to get everything done. 30 days to start
Yes, sir.
making everything.
Okay, so electrical, plumbing, the house is rehabitable in 2 months.
2 months. Can you do it?
I'll try my hardest. I mean, there's still quite a bit of work to be done and, you know, but
Get
I'm
the
gonna
roof-
bust my tail
get
every
the
day
roof
over
done-
there to get it
Get the
done.
roof done
What,
in the next 2 weeks.
Yes, sir.
what would the police and fire like to see to make this safe for the community?
Basically, on our side of it, I don't know, I haven't personally been in the house. Our biggest concern is it's been a habitat for the homeless. That's because it's been sitting empty. If we've got activity in it every day, they seek elsewhere. That's going to probably stop most of that anyway, if there's activity at the house every day. What I can do when I get back over at the station is I'll also put it on what we have as a house watch, which is having the officers actually drive by and watching it, making sure that we can also try to keep it secured. If we do see doors open, normally we can't just walk up on properties like this without a call originally. But if we see doors open, I think we already have his number. We can call him and say,
Yeah.
we've got doors open here. He'll usually say, okay, go in, see if anyone's there. If they're there, take them out, and we can usually do a breaking and entering if they're actually inside, damage of property, and we can usually secure them off there. If the house is going to have activity at it on a daily basis, then we usually don't have a lot of problems with the vagrants.
And if there's gonna be people working, they're gonna have this brand of shirt on. So it's not gonna be hard to not identify. They're gonna have the company shirt on.
And it's usually after dark, middle of the night, is when we get our calls, not just to this house, there are several houses in town that we get calls in reference to the door standing open or lights going on when they know there's not any, one living there, so.
Okay. And Scott, will you provide to Mr. Doherty what the city's expectations are within 60 days?
So I just want to make sure I'm clear, because I don't want to walk away and be like, hey, so in 2 weeks, we got to have the roof on, correct?
I want him to have the roof on in
Yes,
2
sir.
weeks. I'm giving you 60 days to talk with your brothers and to work out the deal and get the deed in your name. Something you can do through the courts, and I'm sure it won't be an issue.
Yes, sir.
Bringing the house into habitability in 60 days is.
I know it's tight,
That's
So-
tight.
but I'm
Yeah, that's what I was
expecting,
gonna say too, with me having to go to the courts and having to put in my name, I know that's gonna cost me a little bit of money as well. So, I mean.
Okay, and that is not gonna happen. I
No.
mean.
it's gonna take a bit, but
The
get it
going to
started.
court will take longer than 60 days. Nothing happens
Get
in
it
Garfield
started within
County
60
courthouse
days.
that
Yes, sir.
quickly.
Get
Get it started
I mean,
within
it's
60
just-
I will
days.
personally bring the paperwork to you.
Okay.
Get it
so-
started within
So
60
Carol, let me ask you, and because I want Mr. Doherty to know, and be able to answer this. Let's say that he starts working over there and we have a fire tomorrow that burns down the people's house next door. Who's responsible? And do you have insurance for that? Because I'm guessing no.
On the house over there, no, there is no
I
insurance
mean,
over there.
what if somebody gets hurt? Who's liable? Because we just gave them more time.
Okay, well, are you saying that the house burns down or that another?
We've already
house-
had a fire over there. I'm worried about the two neighbors, right? If that blaze goes over, we do have wind in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
We burn down the next one. Who's responsible for that? Can we just go, no harm, no foul, and those other people just go, yeah?
If it was my property where the fire started on, I would be responsible for it.
And, okay, that's what I'm asking.
Yeah,
You have a certificate of insurance that shows that, because you're telling me that we can't fix the roof because of cost. I'm not,
No, that's not what I'm saying at all. The roof can be fixed. I'm saying if you wanted everything fixed in 2 months, that's gonna be a little cost worthy to do that. That's what I was saying. The roofing material to fix that roof is already at that house. It's already there. Like I said, the reason why it's not fixed is because I didn't know if I could still do work on that house before I came to this. That's what I'm saying, and I'm sorry if I didn't
well,
clarify that.
and I'll say this to the commissioners, that, I sympathize with you. I really do. I want that property fixed up also. I wish you could. But we've been at this or our code enforcement's been at it for 3 years, and I'm sitting here, I'm not hearing any way. You even mentioned that you've already got electrical wiring. You don't own the house. You can't do the electrical work. Am I wrong on that?
Yeah.
So do we have money to pay the contractor? I mean, I'm not seeing it in 60 days.
I'm not personally going to be putting in the electrical wire. It's going to be a company that does it. I just bought the wire so it can be put in. I'm not licensed to do any kind of electrical work like that. I'm only licensed to do roofing and fencing. So that's all that I would be doing. Yes, you're exactly right. I'd have to hire KC Electric or some different electric company to actually come run the wire. And then they actually, you get the paper and they have their name and it's signed on and it's a licensed electrician that does it. You're right, I personally can't do that, but somebody else
The
can do it.
key thing is, if you want to give him more time, it needs to be boarded up properly, because the real danger for fire at this point is that somebody will go in with electrical outlet, running it through the window and be, who knows what they're doing, but it's not safe. So if it's boarded up, then if you want to give him more time, I am a little concerned that getting it boarded up and getting started and showing good progress to our code department is possible in 2 months. I can't fathom that he will be able to get all of the notices for getting the property in his name and get all of the stuff done in 2 months. I think it's too much.
Yeah.
Okay, now can I speak? Well, my motion was, I'm giving you 60 days, turn around and get the roof substantialized, get it boarded up, go through the process with your brothers and try to get it put into your name.
Yes, sir.
So that this way you can get insurance on it and you can pull a lot more permits that way with your name on it. Okay?
Yes,
It's
sir.
making your life easier. In the 60 days, I want to be back here and we'll have another hearing and we'll go from there
Yes, sir.
with the progress.
Okay,
sir.
progress.
That was my 60 days.
And put general liability on it.
That was
So
my
go
motion
and
for
go
the
and
60
claim your
days.
general liability. $650, you got insurance.
Yes, sir.
That's very clear to me what's being asked, so I think there's a motion and a second,
Okay.
and we're going to have a vote here pretty soon.
Okay.
Carol, Lehman, and I'm just in the door. right-
So voting on Commissioner Saragusa's
Motion, giving him 6 months to get the house.
Days.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
2 months.
60 days is what I was.
2 months.
2 months. And
Just
at the
show-
end of that, we're going to come back, we're going to have a report on what it looks like then. We're going to have a certificate of insurance.
There you go.
Yes, sir.
General
If not,
I totally understand.
okay. Okay, so I have a motion and a second. Cast your votes. All right, 7-0. Go to work.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys very much.
I'll be by there tomorrow.
Yes, sir.
It's too good of a house to throw in the landfill.
Okay. Item number 6, 6.1, consider approval of a resolution of the mayor and Board of Commissioners of the City of Enid, Oklahoma, the city, approving the incurrence of indebtedness by the Enid Municipal Authority, the authority issuing its sales tax revenue note, taxable series 2023, the note, providing that the organizational document creating the authority is subject to the provisions of the note indenture, authorizing the issuance of said note, waiving competitive bidding with respect to the sale of said note, and approving the proceedings of the authority pertaining to the sale of said note, approving and authorizing a sales tax agreement by and between the city and the authority pertaining to the year-to-date pledge of certain sales tax revenue, declaring an emergency, and containing other provisions related thereto. I'll remind you that since there is an emergency on this, it will take, we're going to do 2 votes at, after we discuss it. So, that being said,
Let me introduce the topic, if you're okay with that.
absolutely.
I'll just talk about, we've got our financial advisor and our bond counsel here, Alan Brooks and John Wolf, but I just wanted to introduce, we did discuss this recently in an executive session, and we talked about, this is related to the industrial park. We did have some discussion about this in study session, so I want to make clear that there's some misconceptions or inaccuracies about in the item, particularly, I just want to clarify that this allows us to borrow up to $5 million. These guys will be here to talk about it. Doesn't mean you have to authorize $5 million. It has to do with purchasing land in an industrial park. There's no intention to spend $5 million for 400 acres. There is an intention to get some land, particularly 400 acres, and this money would be doing that. This money would be put aside in some kind of investment pending an agreement to buy some land that would come back before this council for approval to ensure that the council approved what we were doing. Ideally, we would buy as much land as we can because they're not making any more of it where we need to have it. If we don't do this, I don't have any other solutions for you at this point on how we get land to extend water and sewer lines, which are necessary to make this land attractive. The land sat there for a long, long time, and nobody's come. They might come in the future, but I doubt it without utilities. For Charlene, who handles primarily our efforts on economic development, with especially on things like this and attracting businesses, she needs to have a product. This gives us a product. It is not without risk, certainly, but I think the reward will be worth it. We can certainly talk about some other things, but I thought Alan and John, whichever one of you is going to talk first, maybe you'll come up here, and I'm sure the commission may have some questions, but.
And I know that Commissioner Orr particularly wants to know what the emergency is. Why does this have to carry an emergency? I told him if it doesn't carry an emergency, it won't, the resolution isn't effective for 30 days. But why don't you explain the importance of the 30 days?
without the emergency, one, this resolution, or these two resolutions, one on the authority, one on the city agenda, companion items, relate to incurring debt to procure or to purchase property. As the city manager noted, the funds would be deposited in a depository, would be earning interest at this point, probably earning at least as much interest as we're paying on the note initially, is what we're anticipating. But we can't close the transaction until we have a final approval. If there's not an emergency clause, then per the city attorney's, what she just said, I mean, we couldn't close till that 30-day period had run. So it would be typical on this type of transaction that we have an emergency clause on it, so we don't have to wait the 30 days. Depending on what the council and the authority decides this evening, this transaction could close in let's say 3 weeks probably. And sooner we close, the sooner we lock in the interest rate, and that part of the transaction's settled. But that's ultimately your call if you don't want to vote the emergency, but that is the reason. So the action would be considered effective immediately, and we could go ahead and close the transaction prior to the 30 days running.
Which way are the interest rates running? Are they going up or are they going down?
I don't think anybody can answer that question, unfortunately, Commissioner. I mean, I'm not being, trying to be cute, but I mean, everybody has an opinion on that.
Tell you what they've done, obviously.
No.
We had multiple open market committee meetings where they raised the Fed fund rate multiple times. There's discussion of maybe raising those rates a couple more times at 0.25%. That's all part of this reasoning for not knowing what's going to happen with inflation. So, can you hear me okay? I don't know.
Yeah.
Nobody online could. It would be better if you could get up there, please.
Just repeating what I was stating earlier is we don't know where rates are going to go, but we know what's happened with the Federal Reserve and the Federal Open Market Committee. The Fed fund rate at one time was 0.25%. Now it's a little over 5%. So everyone's trying to curb inflation. And so when you came to us to look at financing options based on what has happened historically, we wanted to put together an actual timeline that could get you dollars locked in at today's interest rates and take out that risk that you have. There's always risks associated with any projects. The financing side is trying to get out and take advantage of where rates are today. And we have had conversations with state banks to see where market is. It's a tough number to solidify from bank to bank because of the focus of some banks are a little different, and there's concerns and how far out we're going to have a situation with inflation. But we do work with multiple communities throughout the state, and some of the banks that bid on a lot of these transactions for these other communities, we're familiar with those banks that are more aggressive than others. And so our job is to come to you tonight and say, here's what we've seen. We've actually conversed with banks. We see what are called indicative rate ranges, where they say we might be between X rate and Y rate. And not knowing what the rates would be, let's say 2 weeks out from tonight, if we were to put out a package and have everyone bid, we can just tell you where we're at today. And so I think we have some banks that can be very aggressive, as Mr. Brooks had mentioned, is on the timing. Why go out now? What are the risks? And in the past, part of the risks had to do with you go out, you lock in a particular financing, and you put money in the bank, in a trustee bank, ready to be used to acquire land, and the money that's sitting in that account is earning almost zero. Well, that's not how it is today. The way the yield curve is, you're earning very close to possibly what you would pay. So you basically, this would be transaction that would be determined as taxable, which means the purchaser of the debt would actually pay federal income tax on the interest that you pay them. But you don't have to worry about, you could actually, if you had investment rates that we have today, if you earn more than you were paying, you would be able to be what's called arbitrage. You would make money on the transaction until you actually use those dollars to acquire the land. So it's not a negative economic situation for you from that aspect, and that's all based on timing. How quick can we get to the market, lock the rate in? So now that I'm up here, just generally what we look at is, like I said, talking to the banks, is the banks want to know what is the security on this. We're looking at, based on different dollar amounts that we were given by staff, whether you borrow $5 million or $4 million, you borrow for 4 or 5 years. Some of the key elements had to do with, will the bank allow for you to pay off that particular loan at any point in time without any type of penalty or premium? Not every bank offers that. The banks want to be able to leverage, and they don't want to go out and do all of this work and then you pay it off 6 months later. But there are some banks that don't have a problem with that. That's a very important portion of this type of transaction, is that if you have a bank that will offer up the ability to prepay at any time, you have the option as you are developing that area to reach in and pay down against your note, reduce the amount of interest you're paying, and that's an enviable, or that's a valuable, let's put it that way, a valuable element of this, and we're talking to banks about that particular option. But we won't know until we put the package out to those interested banks throughout the state. So be glad to answer any questions. I'm trying to keep this big picture, but I think it's more important that we answer any questions that you have. I have a handout, but it basically addresses what your payments may look like, what kind of interest rates could possibly be there, and we also even have a draft of what we send out, a term sheet that we send out to banks that we can leave with you. This is what you see is what the banks will see, and they will review the credit. And it's been about 1.5 years since I was here last. This is the first project to be financed in this dollar range. So, but I'd be glad to answer any questions that anyone has.
John, what is the payment on a 5-year versus 4-year, $5 million or $4 million?
We're probably talking about on a 5-year term, assuming, let's use 6%. We think we're going to be under 6%. That's a taxable rate. You're looking at about $1,180,000 a year for 5 years, borrowing $5 million total. And if you're looking at 4 years, then you're looking at, actually, I had 4 years. I did not bring 4 years, but I can do the math. I would say we're probably looking at $1,350,000 to $1,400,000 on 4 years.
As the commission considers this, I don't see it clearly, and maybe it's in the background. My understanding when you talked to us before, we were talking about borrowing up to a certain amount.
Right.
And then you would go out to the banks and figure out what the interest rates were.
Mm-hmm.
And we would also ask for authorization up to a certain interest rate. Is that what you're asking the commission to do? Well, we're asking the commission to consider tonight?
We're asking for, more than anything, we're asking for direction because we've talked to banks. I want to make sure I understand the question.
Well, you're going to get a vote tonight, but what I'm getting at is I don't see, maybe it's in the background.
Basically, what we're asking in the resolution is authorization for a principal amount up to $5 million and an interest rate up to 8%.
Okay, that's what I was thinking.
Chairman or vice chairman would be delegated the authority to decide once we have bids in hand. In other words, if we get one interest rate at 6, It's not prepayable. We get another one at 6.25. It is fully prepayable. There are some advantages and disadvantages. So essentially, authorization to do the transaction, delegating to the chairman or vice chairman to sign off on the bids and names. Principal amount, not to exceed 5 million, interest rate not to exceed 8%. John's thinking it's going to be closer to 6% range. I think 5 million is kind of the last dollar amount that I sensed people wanting to look at.
But obviously, we need direction as to the amount.
We're going to get direction, I'm pretty sure, because
Yeah.
there should be a vote here sometime tonight.
Before we go any farther, we've got one person signed up to speak on this topic also, so I'd like to hear. And since this is a topic that we're discussing tonight, not a public comment, I'll go 3 minutes, Scott, on this. And if any of the commissioners want more time to hear more, we can certainly do that. For 6.1, Doug Peathall.
Thank you, Mayor and Board of Commissioners. My name is Doug Peathod. My address is 4229 West Chestnut, which, by the way, took 8 months to clear title when I bought it, just so you know. That can happen. And also, I wanted to thank you for recognizing the Autry students. My own son placed first in welding. He's a first-year welding student, first in the state, fifth nationally, and we're very proud of him. So thanks for doing that. That's a great thing. Our future looks bright.
It does.
I hung out with all these kids in Atlanta. So, with respect to this, I want to thank you guys for bringing this up in the study session, because that answered a lot of the questions I had in my mind after I read this over the weekend. But one of the questions I had, and I realized that I don't think this is a forum to ask and answer just rhetorically, is with the grant that's being looked at, there's no transparency as to who that grant's coming from and if there are any strings attached to it once the city receives that grant. And for that infrastructure that's going to be built with that $15 million, does that $15 million cover the infrastructure that needs to be built, or is it going to take more money to complete the infrastructure? And the second rhetorical question I guess I have for you guys to consider is, can the infrastructure be built without owning the land adjacent to the infrastructure? I know that there's a water line that goes by my property that the city has an easement on. They don't own my property next to that easement. So that was another question I had. The next statement is more of a philosophical. I realize that we all come from different philosophical backgrounds. I'm of a small limited government mentality and philosophy, and I think the powers of the government should be few and defined. I recall that my own commissioner, former commissioner Jerry Allen, made the comment that the city really shouldn't be in the real estate business, and I hope my current commissioner agrees with that as well. And the reason is we have commercial real estate developers in Enid. So the city is essentially competing with those guys in the commercial real estate sector. And when the government competes with private business, government always wins, because government has unlimited resources, virtually. So that's my first concern on that. And the second is if there's not a developer, wow, that was quick. If there's not a developer willing to take that risk right now, why should the city? That's my last point. Thank you very much.
Keep going, Doug. I want to request. I want to hear the rest of what you have to say.
Yeah, I did want to point out that I do recall that when we passed, or when the council passed the budget in May, it was already a $6 million deficit budget. And I think there was another acquisition, $400,000. So now we're looking at, $6.4 million already in deficit. And I just worry that continuing to do this is going to put us at risk as a city. And I appreciate everything all you guys do. I know this is a hard job, but we are entrusting you with our money and your money as well to make very wise decisions. And that was all I had left. Thank you.
Gerald, so it was briefly mentioned in the study session, but what is the city's intent with purchasing the land? Do we intend to lease it to the industry or to sell that?
I think that's a great question. Our intent, and I think it follows up on what Commissioner Orr said, my intent is that land has to be, if the city acquires it, has to at some point be sold or leased at fair market value.
Yeah.
Because that's where the funds come from to pay back the loan. Now, it is true that since nobody's lined up at this moment to move in there, we just talked about it's $1.2 million in annual debt payments. If nobody lines up to buy that land or lease it during that 5-year period, if that's the term we take, we will be paying that out of our revenues. And just to give you an idea, and I think it answers one of the questions that was asked about, could the city or would the city do this? No, I don't think we would without the funds, because it's $15.8 million, and yes, that was a hard estimate at the time. It was a ballpark estimate, probably more than a year ago when this grant application was turned in for a state ARPA grant that was actually given to us. But the strings on it were, it can't be used to pay for the land, and if you don't have land, you don't get it. And so because of that, we haven't been able to finalize an agreement on that, although we've input this project into the state's, I'm going to call it the ARPA portal that they use. But back to answering your question, yes, the land would have to be sold or leased at fair market value. I completely agree with that. It makes no sense to buy this and then not get paid at some point. But if we don't consider this, then what we're going to do is probably not be able to utilize that $16 million, which is fine. I've heard a lot about cities shouldn't be in the land business. Generally, I would probably agree with that, but if the city doesn't get in the land business on this with this opportunity, certainly then we can miss the opportunity. I don't know, maybe ARPA funds will be given in the future, but I doubt it. This is a golden opportunity to consider. Yes, it's risky, but I think the risk, I think we've laid out for you. If for some reason the property's not sold or can't be sold or isn't done at fair market value, which can only be done with this body or a future body approving that, which is why it's important we talk about it. It has to be sold or leased. You know, I don't want to get lost on, this is another improvement that has the ability to change the future for many generations. It directly involves industry, and I get it, we don't have anybody lined up. But I also know it's the chicken and the egg. We're not going to get anybody lined up if we don't have some available property with utilities. That's going to be their first look. Now, did we get TP&L? Yes. That one dropped in our lap. They came. You know what? They'd like to build a building out there, but they don't have water and sewer. They did buy the land, so I guess we got lucky, if you want to say that. It was a commercial real estate person that sold them the land and did that. So I don't see how it's not clear to me how we're competing with anybody on this. We're trying to improve and provide opportunity for the city, for an arm of the city, essentially, to go out and aggressively market and return RFPs for 400-acre RFPs. Are we going to get any? Yes, I think we will. Will it be in 5 years? I don't know. We've already talked about one. Again, it's just a possibility. But if we don't have something to offer, you know, and believe me, you guys vote on this. I'll sit here and follow your direction, but I think we would miss I'm going to say it's a once-in-a-generation opportunity if we don't consider this. And so we need to make sure that all of you are comfortable, and that's where the terms and you guys can help us make sure whatever we do borrow, if you do authorize that, I'm sure whenever that closes in 30 or 45 days or whenever it is, Aaron's going to dutifully put that in an investment that I don't know if it's going to make 5% or 6%, but it's going to make more than it used to, which is like 0.5% or 0.1. And so to me, that limits the risk. I get it. You know, risk is challenging, but this is a risk that makes perfect sense to me. But you guys hold in your hands, even tonight, you get to make a decision that affects the future long after you're commissioners, probably long after, well, obviously long after I'm the city manager. This will be like 54th Street, improving it. And so, again, another legacy opportunity. So I would think about that as you weigh your decision on how you go tonight. Did I answer your question?
Yes. Another of Mr. Pethod's questions that he asked me was, he just wanted to be sure that we don't, if the current company that we're speaking to, if that falls through, that we don't, you know, hastily make an offer to a company that would compete with an established business or established industry that we already have in the city.
One of the benefits of owning the land is that you are always in the driver's seat as a member of the governing body. The governing body's got to approve any deal with anybody that's done. So I can assure you, anything that we might quote-unquote rush into is going to be brought before this body, and you guys will have a chance to debate it, ultimately vote on it. So I don't see a danger in that happening because it takes this board's approval to move forward on purchasing land. This doesn't buy any land. All this does is authorize them to go out and query the banks and move forward with the chairman's signature on the best interest rate we can get, up to $5 million if that's what you decide. And that money would be invested until such time as we do make a deal on some land, and then that has to be brought in. You guys have to approve that. If you don't approve it, then we'll be sitting there with $5 million that, you know, I'm not as optimistic as you are that we'll have arbitrage on that, but I think it'll be close. And so again, the risk is slight. And you know what? Without taking risk, you got to measure the risk with reward. I mean, if this was a stock investment, I think you mentioned last time, who in this room, who in this community wouldn't invest if they had the money? I don't. But if they had $5 million to get 15. And then what happens to the value of that land when you invest 15 million in it? So I'm just giving you food for thought. You guys are always the decision makers on this, but if I was a commissioner, it's a real easy vote for me tonight, but I'm not. You guys are. So I hope I've given you the information to make it easy for you.
Yes.
If I haven't,
How about if it was your own money, Gerald?
I would do it because I'm getting a $15 million gift from the state. Once in a lifetime, the state's given us $15 million. That's never happened before in 20 years that I've been here.
And I agree, this is a great deal. I'm not gonna deny that, and it is a good deal, but we need to stop. This has transpired fast over the last, I don't know, what, 30, 45, 60 days? And we're just jumping into this. Like I said, we don't even know what kind of business we're targeting. We don't, you know, is it gonna compete with somebody that's already here in town? Will the business that's interested in this land with the improvements, will they buy the land for us? If they buy the land, will the grant kick in? Does anybody know?
The grant's going to kick in as soon as we tell them that we have land.
As soon as what?
As soon as we have land or a contract on land.
Whether we buy it or a developer or
I don't, another developer buying it's not going to trigger the $16 million.
See, there may be, I think we're jumping into this too fast. We've got 3.5 years to get this done. How long will it take to improve that land? And will it cost more than or 15.8 million?
I can't answer that. You guys know everything costs more, but I will tell you it takes a long time. But
Don't you guys agree that we should probably have answers to some of these questions before we?
that's the sound of opportunity knocking,
Make this
Commissioner.
decision?
I hear what you're saying. I'm laying out the information for you. You guys get to vote. So I'm doing my best to answer.
It is a great deal. It is a great deal, but we've got a lot of things that are unanswered. You know, if we attract some business to the city and they want the land, they could possibly buy it themselves and we could have them get the 15 million.
That would be after the fact, after the improvements are up to the land. That's what, the land has to be bought in order for us to
I
get the
understand that.
16 million to
But
improve
can
up
somebody
to
else,
the land.
in a business or manufacturing?
And once that is done, then it makes it more profitable for a business to come in and purchase the land because it already has everything it needs up to the
I
land.
understand that, but my point is, I'm trying to avoid the city having to buy the land.
Well, then if
We
the
have-
city doesn't buy the land, guess what? We don't get the $16 million.
It's not, that
The city
16
has to
million.
buy the land?
Yes,
Yes.
yes. That's the grant. That's the $16 million that we're getting from the state. If we don't buy it, we don't get it.
Also,
16 million, just like that.
Okay, just one answered question out of the several I asked, that's all we know.
We don't get it.
I still
We
think
don't
there's
get
a
it.
lot of unanswered questions.
Well, is there anything else I can try?
$5 million.
If there's anything else, I would definitely, I would answer it for you, Commissioner. I can't tell you who's going to come, but from where I'm sitting, whoever comes that offers jobs and offers to buy it at fair market value or lease it, we would say yes, I would
Gerald, but
think.
we've been in this situation before.
No, not
There
this-
have been
not this
several-
situation.
Well, when I say situation, I mean general situation where the city has made purchases that have gone south.
If you're talking about the bank building, I
I'm
would
talking about
say,
the bank building, I'm talking about the Stride Bank building. There have been several bad decisions, and I'm just afraid this might end up being another one.
you know, the bank building, you guys made a decision you wanted to make on that. I will tell you that somebody was waiting out there and bought it, and they have a multi-million-dollar building now that they bought. I'm not saying we didn't have a good use for it. I think that was a good decision. The Stride Center is always in your control, too. If you know, the Stride Center was, government does not pay for itself. The only thing that the city gets is sales tax and water revenues. That's it. Administration doesn't pay for itself. The police department doesn't pay for itself. Fire doesn't pay for itself.
I understand that.
And so they don't make money. Nobody makes money. Stride makes $2 or $3 million. Granted, they have, what was a $900,000 deficit, and I think they should improve. And if they don't, then you guys will have an ability to do something. But, you know, there seems to be a disconnect here to me. We talk about having things to do in the community, trying to support things. That's what we're trying to do. I get it, there can be disagreement, and I'm happy. I'm just trying to answer questions.
And I'm not disagreeing with you on that aspect of it. My point is, do we know, I mean, we don't even have some of the basic questions answered. If we get this 15.8 million grant, if we spend up to 5 million on the land, and then we get this 15.8 million grant, will that grant cover the infrastructure? And how long is the infrastructure going to take to put in?
I'm going to jump out there and say it's going to cover it, because if it doesn't cover all of it, we're going to truncate and not do everything that Morale has tentatively looked at doing. So I feel comfortable saying it will. If it doesn't, you know, I can't. I mean, somebody asked about interest rates.
There's a disconnect, I think, here. I thought the 15 or 16 million dollars was going to do road improvements,
No,
not
Carol.
on the site.
Oh, Carol.
Sewer, all that. Isn't it sewer?
Water and sewer, yes.
Water and sewer
Not be
going
used for the
down the
road.
road,
Yes.
and then it cannot be used to purchase the site, and it's not enough to actually, it gets it to the site. And I thought we had discussed, because I thought we had previously discussed that this was possibly it's going to happen very soon, but this is a long-term thing that a city does because a city doesn't have a lifespan. So would it make sense for Mr. Stallings and I to do this? Probably not at this point in our life, but the city takes the long view. And so that's, I think this is, you do this, you put the things in, and you don't expect it to make sense in 6 months, or maybe even 2 years. You build it and you wait for them to come. Is that not what we talked about?
Let me chime in here, Carol. So I respect the fact that we have to do our due diligence and make sure that this is money that we need to spend. However, I've been in business enough to know that you have to spend money in order to make money. We're sitting here borrowing $5 million at in and around 6% that we can reinvest for 5% to 6% to offset that. That lowers our risk a lot. Number two, yes, our job is to be fiduciary about the dollars, the city dollars that we spend. But you know what else is our responsibility? To create jobs. Because all I ever hear is, oh, I wish we had a target. If I just had a target. You know what drives a target? Population.
Yes.
Population. You know what drives population? Jobs.
Yes.
Jobs. So we can all sit back and we can complain about the Stride Center. Just come from a meeting that they said every doctor we try to recruit. What do you have that we can do here? Do you have a movie theater? Do you have anything we can go see concerts at? Those are the things that are our responsibility as a city to do. And that means jumping out there. And I'll remind you one last thing, that when Noah built the ark, it wasn't raining yet. You can't wait until it's raining before you start doing the work. And that's where we're at right now. So yes, we can worry about $5 million. We can pay it back. They're not even taking an assignment on the land because our credit is so good. They're just saying, hey, will you guarantee that you'll pay it out of sales tax? We've got the money, and the deficit, I get the deficit. It's the way they work the books. We had $22 million of unencumbered dollars sitting over on the side. We are not broke.
That's right.
We can pay every single dollar. So we have, for the last 3 years, tried to set ourselves up on a water project because we want to be in the hunt. You realize that if we had another business today that calls like Coke and says, hey, we want to move right out there and we need 6 million gallons of water today, they'd go somewhere else until we get that water line open. So you can either invest in our city and see a bigger picture, or we can sit on our hands and watch it go somewhere else. Because that's what's going to happen. We sat there and we gave Charlene a task of going out and finding these RFPs that will work. Every single one of them want 300 to 400 acres. She can't even carry them down there and turn them in because she doesn't qualify for them. So quit taking her tools away. Let's vote on this thing and get it going. Let's try to see 5 years, 10 years, or 20 years from now.
I want to make sure something's straight. I'm not trying to take the tools away, Mr. Mayor. I just want questions answered on how much more this is going to cost.
So what do you, then, Commissioner, you want us to go out and recruit a business, drive them out by a wheat field and say, hey, look, we don't have any water, we don't have any sewer, I know it's still a wheat field, but I think I can get it bought maybe in a couple of years. Every business person I know, they roll on down the road.
I'm just asking, this is only taking 30 to 45 days to transpire. What's it going to take for another month to get some more detailed answers? That's all I'm asking.
I just have one question.
Okay.
Just, I need the answers so I can make my decision. The infrastructure that has to be completed by December 2026, that's road improvements in water and sewer?
That's water and
Down the
sewer.
road.
Water and sewer.
Water and
Okay.
On the road.
Jason, is that possible to get that done by December 2026?
Yes, sir, I would believe so, yes.
Okay. Okay. I move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. This is on the first vote to approve the resolution. So all those in favor, or all those cast their votes, cast your votes. 7-0, it passes. Now then,
I move on the emergency on this.
okay, I have a motion for the emergency
Okay.
and a second. Cast your votes. 7-0, motion passes. We'll move on to 6.2. Consider approval of an ordinance amending the Enid Municipal Code 2014, Title I, Administration, Chapter 8. Officers and employees, boards and commissions, to add Section 1-8-4, Boards and Commission, to assist in promoting good decision-making and productive meetings by providing guidelines, providing for repealer, saving clause, severability, and codification. And Carol, I think you're going to speak to this.
This is our guidelines for principally probably the new board members. And the reason why I put it in an ordinance is that's what we do. And if we want all our boards and commissions to know these guidelines, an ordinance is codified. And you can get it online on our website. It's one of actually the technology things that I actually think is great. You just go to the ordinances and you click on it and it's there 24 hours a day. That's why we do ordinances. It It's there whether City Hall's open or not. 25, 30 years ago, you had to wait. You either had to go to the public library and get the one copy, or go to the courthouse when they're open, or go to City Hall. Now, or buy your own. Now it's online. So, no, we don't have to have this, but the thought was that it would be good to have some common sense guidelines put someplace where they could get it and read it. We've obviously had boards and commissions for ever since 1909, and we haven't had this exact help. But it was suggested by the OMAG people that it would be good to have it in one place. Here it is in one place.
Why can't we just go to the website and put up the same information under the boards and commissions? Why does it have to be part of the ordinance? It makes no sense to me. Can somebody explain why it has to be an ordinance? Or can we just put some information so when anybody gets appointed by us to a board or a commission, they can look it up? And really, there's nothing in here that should be in an ordinance.
Well, we have specific, why do we have boards, our boards and commissions are usually put in an ordinance. Why do we do that? I mean, almost every board and commission we have has an ordinance backing it up. So this is just the same thing. If we don't, we don't usually set out, I think actually probably the Martin Luther King Holiday Commission started out as a resolution in 1989. That was the last board that we ever did that was a resolution. All the others are in the code. If you want to change that, that's fine, and I can turn this into a resolution and you can pass it. But the easy thing is you go, you click on code, and then there's a search feature. And if you want to know what are board rules, then you put it in and it's there 24 hours a day.
I move to approve item 6.2.
Second. But before we do, I've got some comment. I've got public comment on this. They've signed up. Once again, we'll do 3 minutes on this topic. Please keep your topic directed to us and stay on topic. All right. The first speaker for 6.2 is looks like Lucille Pitt.
Yes, and I can speak from here on Lucille's Pitt.
Well, would you mind coming up here? The people online just can't hear you.
Good evening, Commissioner.
Thank you.
My name is Lucille Pitt. I live at 3030 Dwelly Drive, and I am for Ordinance 6.2. I went online to try to get some clarification. It's not quite clear yet, but I expect that I'll get some more information. But if we feel that we need more information, I can talk to Commissioner Norwood and get it. I think that the way it is written up there, we do need to have guidelines for our meetings and so on and so forth, so that I don't see where voting against it would be productive. So I agree. I came and read the little thing, and I approve Ordinance 6.2.
Okay, thank you. Chrissy Balden?
Hello. Thank you, Mayor and Commissioners. I haven't been here in a while, and I hope you all enjoyed my vacation as much as I did. If I understand this correctly, and I've been working on this in my head all day, I do want to encourage the approval of the ordinance. I believe that there is much needed understanding and oversight of the city boards. Over the last year, the library board in particular has engaged in overreach and activism that caused the initiation of a potential lawsuit, which would cost our city dearly. And my understanding of this is it just helps them to understand their role in oversight, and so I think it should be approved.
Thank you. Nancy Presnell.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. I just wanted to speak in approval of passing this ordinance. Thank you.
I was all excited about using 3 minutes. Doug Peathott, you wanted to speak as well.
Doug Peathod, 4229 West Chestnut. I've served on boards. I currently serve on boards. I'm not on any of the city boards. I've watched a few of the board meetings on the board meetings online. And I do agree that there needs to be some clarification of the roles and chain of command for board members. There needs to be some clarification. And I think a lot of the stuff that's been added into this does that. There are some things, though, that I see as vague. And I realize when you're crafting a document, you're in it and you understand the inner workings. But when you present this to somebody who's a brand-new board member, there's a lot of ambiguity still in that. And I think there's some work that needs to be done. I only have 3 minutes. If you'd like to talk with me at some point, and I can point out the things I did find that are confusing. One of the things it spells out in here is it says that these boards are to have an advisory role. But it doesn't say to whom they are to advise. Is it Gerald? Is it the commission? Is it the staff? So there's a clarification point among many. And I think to Scott's point, a lot of the ordinances in here are really just a restatement of Oklahoma statute, taking Oklahoma statute and saying it again. Well, what if Oklahoma changes their statute and we're sitting here with a different statute? I think in many cases it's better to just say pursuant to Oklahoma statute so that any board member can go back to the actual statute that governs this and be unequivocally clear on what they can and cannot do. With that, I think that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, may I make a comment before we vote on this? Okay. I've heard from a number of community members who serve on these boards who feel that the broad language of this proposal will take away their ability to be effective on these boards. And they also believe it de-incentivizes the reason that they are volunteering their time to serve on these boards. And I agree with that. I agree with that. I feel that the voters of this community who elect us, then we make appointments from the general public to these boards. I don't like that we're taking away the people's oversight and our own oversight and handing it over to bureaucracy. So I'm going to vote no on this, but I expect it's passed. So that's all I have to say.
Any other comment? Okay, I have a motion from Commissioner Norwood. Do I have a second? Second. Please cast your votes. Motion passes 5-2. Next item. Item number 7, consent.
Move to approve consent items.
I have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Please cast your vote. 7-0. Motion passes. Item number 8, recess to convene as the Enid Municipal Authority. Item number 9, all the trustees are here of the Enid Municipal Authority's regular meeting. Item number 10.1, consider approval of a resolution of the trustees of the Enid Municipal Authority, known as the Authority, authorizing the authority to issue its sales tax revenue note, taxable series 2023, in the aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $5 million, the note, waiving competitive bidding and authorizing the note to be sold on a negotiated basis approving and authorizing the execution of a sales tax agreement by and between the City of Enid, Oklahoma, the city, and the authority pertaining to a year-to-year pledge of certain sales tax revenue, approving and authorizing execution of note indenture, authorizing the issuance and securing the payment of the note, providing that the organizational document creating the authority is subject to the provisions of the note indenture, authorizing and directing the execution of the note and other documents relating to the transaction, including professional services agreement, authorizing the authority's financial advisor to distribute bid packages to prospective financial institutions in connection with the financing and containing other provisions related thereto.
Move to approve item 10.1.
Second.
Motion and a second. Please cast your vote. Motion passes 7-0. 7-0.
On this one, there is no emergency due to the fact that it was covered under the first. This is just a companion.
Well, it's because it's the Enid Municipal Authority,
Yep.
and they don't require it.
Item 10.2, consider a resolution increasing the 2023-2024 fiscal financial plan for the Enid Municipal Authority in the amount of $1,668,385.09 for prior year encumbrances, let me say that again, encumbrances outstanding as of June 30th, 2023.
Yes, Mayor and Commissioners, in consent, you already approved all the other rollover encumbrances. This is what's outstanding to the EMA. There are currently 30 contracts that are in progress, and we just need authorization to roll those from last year's budget into this year's, so we can continue to make payments on those.
All finances are there from last year's.
Yes.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and approved. Please cast your vote. Passes 7-0. Item 10.3, consider a resolution increasing the 2023-2024 physical financial plan for the Enid Municipal Authority in the amount of $2 million.
Yes, and again, this is a companion to what was in consent, but in the budget that we adopted, there were no funds for Call Lake, and so we're now asking to appropriate funds. We have some damages, legal bills, some other ancillary things that aren't already under contract that we need to pay moving forward. And actually, on the next couple of meetings, we'll have an award coming to you for liquid oxygen that we're going to need for the new plant. So we're just anticipating what we may spend this year and asking for that. It is included in the Call Lake budget already. We're just asking to be able to spend those dollars.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Cast your votes. Motion passes 7-0. Item 10.4, consider waiving the Finance Procedures Manual requirements and award a blanket purchase order in the amount of $110,000 for the acquisition of chlorine gas in 1-ton containers from the sole source provider Brentag Southwest, Inc. in Dallas, Texas, for use in the water treatment process for the period of July 1, 2023 through June 30th, 2024.
Yes, Mayor and Commissioners, this is an annual item that we bring forward to you. This is for the current water treatment plant that we have. This is how we treat that water. $110,000 was included in the budget, but now we just need the authorization to award that blanket purchase order to Brentag to make those purchases.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Cast your votes. 7-0. Item 10.5, approval of claims in the amount of $746,361.66.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and a second. Cast your votes. Motion passes 7-0. Item number 11, adjourn and convene as the Enid Economic Development Authority. Item 12, all trustees are here of the Enid Economic Development Authority. Item number 13.1, approval of claims in the amount of $200,000.
Move to approve.
Second.
Motion and second. Cast your votes. 7-0. Item number 14, adjourn to convene as the Enid Public Transportation Authority. Item number 15, all the trustees are present for the Enid Public Transportation Authority regular meeting. Item 16.1, approval of claims in the amount of $1,473.05.
Move to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Please cast your votes. 7-0. Item number 17, adjourn to reconvene as the Enid City Council. Item number 18, public comment. I have 2 speakers signed up for that. This public comment, I'll hold you to 1 minute, please, and direct all your comments to the commission. Our first speaker is Dejana Lang?
Diana.
Oh, Diana. Okay.
City Commission and Mayor, I'd implore you to think about the legacy that you are leaving. Enid's main drag is named after the president who enacted the Trail of Tears. There's a neighborhood named after Gone with the Wind, a sign honoring the Missouri Compromise, a restaurant that only caters to bigots, celebrations about stealing land, and now a Nazi on your city council, merely 100 years after having a Klan mayor. This brings shame upon everyone associated with this town. This undercurrent of hatred is exactly why so many, including myself, wind up leaving and making our mark elsewhere. By judging your fellow humans over dress codes, library books, and expressions of love, you have chosen hatred and oppression. Y'all call yourselves Christians, but you wouldn't have a Messiah nor a holy book without the Jewish people. If you simply got to know some Jewish folks and studied Judaism instead of believing in propaganda, you'd realize just how generous and loving the Jewish people are. Denouncing fascism, being welcoming, and having small-town charm are not mutually exclusive. The people of Enid deserve better. Thank you.
Thank you. And Nancy Presnell. 1 minute, please, and address it to the board.
Thanks again, Mr. Mayor and Commissioners. Nancy Presnell, and I'm speaking on behalf of myself and the Garfield County Democratic Party to address concerns about white supremacist ideology in our community. There's approximately 1,225 hate groups in our country right now. Under the umbrella of Unite the Right, the alt-right organization staged a rally on August 12, 2017, which turned into a riot at which one young woman was killed and 19 others were injured. We would do wise to suspect the ideas of anyone who attended this rally, helped organize it, recruited for it, addressed the other participants in it, carried a torch, and is known to have participated in other active supportive events of racism. There has been no, especially if this person has no condemnation of the murder of Heather Heyer and no denunciation of the practice of white supremacy, despite many requests for an explanation. Okay. So we just cannot accept the unacceptable. We can't do that. Thank you.
Okay. Item number 19, I'll look for a motion to adjourn.
Adjourn.
Second. All in favor, say aye. Aye. We are adjourned.